Hey everyone, I'm Scott Stokely, and this is a hole-by-hole breakdown of the back nine at the Texas State Championships in Tyler, Texas. If you haven't watched the front nine, pause this and go watch the front nine first. There's information you're gonna need in order to watch the back nine video. Now, one thing I forgot to mention, we're at Lindsay Park, an amazing piece of property here in Tyler, and there are 3 disc golf courses on the property. What they did was they basically picked the best holes from those courses and made some modifications to turn this into one epic course. I know Greg Barsby had a lot to do with it, and I'm sure the local club and a lot of people were involved as well. But they did a fantastic job. On to the back nine. So we're gonna start with hole 10. It's, 426 feet? It's slightly downhill. It crests a hill. There's 4 pine-ish, maybe fir trees or something, kind of blocking the fairway. OB behind the basket. Extremely reachable. Everyone in MPO can reach this hole. This is a lot harder than it looks, because here's what's going to happen. You have some options. You can throw above, I'm going to call them fir trees. If I get it wrong, I'm referring to the 4 trees in the fairway. You can throw over the fir trees. The problem with going over the fir trees is that if you are flat or hyzer, when you clear those trees, you're going way left. You have to be slightly turned over as you cross them for it to stall by the target. If, however, you're turned over a tiny bit more, when the disc fades, instead of fading left, it's going to fade forward out of bounds. Super tricky. The actual line you would throw is right where those fir trees are. So I honestly think the play here is to ignore the fir trees, throw your golf shot lower, slight hyzer to the hole, and hope that you get through 2 or 3 times out of 3. I'm going to go ahead and give it one a try. And I think that's right under it. Hole 11, 485 feet. I mean, this is one of the holes where nobody's happy parring, because there's not a whole lot of trouble here. Out of bounds on the right, not really in play. It's slightly downhill. Most of the players, just about all in the MPO, can reach it. You do want to get under the line of trees to get up to the hole, but the big mistake here is throwing short, because if you air long, the trees are actually going to help you out. And that was short. Hole 12, 435 feet. This is a great hole to talk about strategy on, because you have to throw a slight anhyzer through a tunnel, not too much. You don't want it to go right, because you need it to penetrate the tunnel and then fade left. And it's 435. It's a good chuck. All day, basically every player, including myself, can reach this hole. It's not a matter of getting the hole. Here's how I'm looking at it. If I throw the anhyzer through the gap, sometimes I'm going to miss the gap right, sometimes I'm going to miss the gap left. And when I look at what happens when you miss right or left, it's thick. There are places, many places, right or left, where you are not getting to the hole. There is no option. You're pitching back to the fairway or pitching forward a little bit, and you still got to execute an up shot from there. So I'm looking at this shot and I'm saying, for me, 3 or 4 times out of 10, I'm probably going to be in trouble right or left and take a bogey if I throw the air shot, but I'm only going to pure it and get the birdie 1 or 2 times out of 10. Mathematically, if I could take a par nearly every single time, it is better in the long run. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to throw my sidearm hyzer through the gap out to the right. I'm going to have about a 100-foot approach shot. That's not 100%, but close enough for that math to work in my favor. You want to play long-term mathematics, the mathematically correct way to play. You want to be the casino, not the person at the card table trying to beat the casino. So for me, I'm throwing the sidearm hyzer. I'm going to take 3 pars. Right through the middle of the gap, easy approach. Now I want to clarify something. When I'm talking about the mathematics for this hole, I'm talking about the mathematics for me. There are many players in the field that would be wrong mathematically to play conservative on this hole. Maybe they have a good low straight anhyzer game, or maybe because they throw 550 feet, they can take a little bit off of it, which are going to make them, which will make them more accurate. So there's less than of a risk here. They might be looking at 4 birdies out of 10 with only 1 bogey out of 10. So for them, they should be aggressive. I base this on my skill set. My skill set says if I can throw 3 shots here, and then throw 3 shots under the basket, that's cool. I can move on from this hole. Hole 13, this is actually a really cool par 4. It's 552 feet, but it's through a double mandatory, up a hill, and then it shoots almost 90 degrees off to the right. Now, you are going to see a lot of players throw it through the mandatory and try to push it right, backhand or sidearm, trying to get more distance up the hill. But there's an alternate shot, which is the one, depending on wind, that I'm opting for, because there is a hyzer after you, there's a hyzer on your approach shot where you swing it right, and the farther up the hill you are, the more tricky the line is on the hyzer. So there's actually a shot to penetrate the mando, but not by much, leaving yourself a better angle to get up to the hole. It's a very conservative way to make sure you hit the mando, and a really good chance of getting a couple, maybe even 3 birdies out of this one. Without bad wind, this is one I expect to get this one a few times. Okay, now when you look to see where that lie is, it's literally going to be a straight 250-foot hyzer to the hole, throwing into the hillside. So yeah, I'm really liking that one a lot. So you can see, I mean, there's a tunnel shot straight to the basket from here, but there's a tree behind the dead trees, or the leafless trees, I should say, on the right, that all you got to do is clear that. The nice thing about coming into a hillside is you don't have to be as precise with your angle. Now, the wind may push it down, so I might actually in the tournament opt to throw straight up the hill from here, but I'll throw the hyzer just because that's what I've been talking about. All right, so not a great shot. Tricky wind, tailwind's gonna knock it down. Though I may or may not throw this shot, but it's certainly an option. In no wind, I'm loving this route. Hole 14, 426 foot. It's a downhill shot, but it's another one of those holes. It's tricky, which is one of the things I love about this course. The traditional lines aren't that traditional. Most of them have some little element that kind of throws a wrench in the works. You can't just step up and throw. You got to make a decision. So this hole here, there is a righty slight hyzer shot to get to the hole. It's a decent sized gap. I mean, it's a hittable gap. You have to push forward though. If you hit the gap and cut in too early, like you might be borderline outside of circle 2, definitely outside of circle 1 if you're hitting that gap with too much hyzer. You need to push it forward. There's a hill you have to crest. What players are going to be thinking about is throwing low, because the lower you are, the less precise you have to be on the angle. The higher you get, the more the disc is going to fade. The more the disc fades, the smaller the margin for error on the shot. So you're going to be throwing low, you're going to be throwing flat, not so low that you hit the dirt in front of you. I mean, again, this is a tricky hole. It's one of those holes, every time a player throws it, if they don't birdie it, they're going to be like, darn it, it's a 426-foot hyzer. It's like, no, this is a good get, especially in this wind. So I was going to throw a perfect shot under the basket, but that doesn't show you what can happen if you throw a bad shot. So you're welcome. I threw it into the trees on the right. So this is one of the tricky things about this hole. It is not forgiving if you miss right and left. If you miss right, you may not have an out and you have to pitch, which, by the way, has the potential of a double bogey because you still have to execute an upshot from here. If you miss left, you may also have to pitch out. Now that's not double bogeyville because you're going to pitch out with a jump putt-ish to get up to the basket. But you don't want to miss right or left on this hole. I got a good break, so no problems here. I mean, I literally throw into trees for you guys. Like, that's the way I roll. All right, so yeah, like this is not, like I will not do that this weekend for sure. There's virtually no way out. I'm not gonna pitch it. I'm gonna try to get there, but this might be silly. Okay, do that 10 times. I won't get that close again. Here's the thing, you gotta not take double bogeys. I'm actually starting to consider on this shot, this is not a way to get the birdie, but a big high shot over the trees is gonna land somewhere out here, jump putt, take a par. I might actually be thinking par on this hole all 3 rounds because there is trouble to be had. Most players aren't doing that. They're gonna be thinking attack this hole. They're thinking attack most of the holes. But this might be one where I just take 3 pars and move on. Hole 15, 561 feet. It's uphill. You got to split a tunnel. At the top of the hill, there's a baseball field off to the right. And there are mandos, which means you can't throw over the ball field. Now, the interesting thing about this hole, it's the opposite of some of the other ones where I said it looks routine, but there's all these tricky elements to it. This is not tricky at all. Doesn't mean it's easy, but there's no tricks to this one. You split the gap and you push up the hill and you have a wide open sidearm approach shot to the hole. The further you push the gap, the shorter the approach shot. So no secrets on this hole. You hit the gap, you're expecting to birdie it. That's a 3. So this is the general landing area. I mean, it's a big landing area. Hit the first gap, you're probably going to be fine. As you can see, it's just wide open sidearm hyzer. The 2 light poles we have to go to the left of, not a problem. There's nothing in the way. There's a slight risk of throwing a sidearm that fades to the right. That does go over the fence out of bounds. I mean, obviously that would be bad. So you're probably not going to throw 100%, but I threw mine pretty stiff, and a pretty stiff shot still wasn't over the fence. I mean, I could have thrown it harder, but I didn't fluff it. I mean, I threw a good firm shot, still didn't clear the fence. But yeah, like I said, if you get up here, even if you were against the fence, having a swing wide, I mean, you're still going to 3 this hole. Now we come to hole 16, and the special thing about hole 16 on this course is it's the beginning of 3 absolutely fantastic finish holes. The reason I like 16 and 17 and 18 as finish holes is all of them can be birdied. There's no doubt you can attack all these holes and get the birdie. At the same time, none of them are just take it for granted pars. If you're playing conservative, you still have to execute a shot, and if you play too conservative, you might actually run into trouble. So a couple stroke lead coming into hole 16, it's still anybody's game. That's how finish holes should be, without an element of luck, except for one thing which I'll point out. So hole 16, it's 639 feet. There's OB on the right the whole way down. There's also OB on the left. OB's closer early on, and it's pretty big down the fairway. When you're approaching the hole, the OB's not so much in play. Like you have a pretty big landing area to get there. So really it's about your drive on this hole. You have to hit the Mando, the double Mando early on, obviously. There's not so much of an advantage to trying to push a massive drive. I mean, even if you only threw 300 feet, which is a very conservative mid-range shot, but even a 300-foot shot only leaves you 340-foot sidearm to the hole with a big landing area. Anything past that is how many feet less than 340 you need. So not a lot to be gained by pushing it. I mean, you just want to make sure you execute your gap. Now, the only bit of luck I would say is there is a wire, a telephone wire, which by the way is completely obsolete. We don't need telephone wires anymore, but I don't think they're going to pull it out of the ground before the tournament this weekend. So that's the one bit of randomness, is you could throw right down the middle of the fairway and you could get that wire. But other than that, you don't want to bite off too much early on in this hole. You're not smashing the drive. You're playing control. Oh, and I actually went out of bounds left. I can still save par because it's pretty routine, 300 and a little bit foot approach shot from there, but it's hard packed ground. It is Texas. So I'm thinking, I didn't mention this, but the overstable driver to get left might not be the best shot because it's skipping left. So I think something that actually flies a little truer and straighter and pushes forward, definitely a better play than the disc with the high fade. But that's why we come early to practice. All right, so I am out of bounds, but I pulled my shot in here, but it'll give you an idea. I mean, like this is a very executable shot. So you throw your drive anywhere out here, and then you're just throwing a sidearm hyzer to the hole. Hole 17, 912 feet, OB on the right, OB on the left. I posted a picture of this hole and a couple comments were, oh, it's a downhill shot. It's a little downhill. This is not a 912-foot shot where everybody's throwing 700 feet off the tee pad and then jump putting. It plays all of 860 or 870. This is the exact opposite of the hole before, because on this hole, you have a fairly big landing area as far as the OB. I mean, the OB's in play, you throw a bad shot for sure, but if you throw this one more conservative, like you threw the last one, you're probably not getting up and down and not getting your birdie. Now, you know, par's not going to kill you on a hole like this. It's a pretty darn hard hole. But if you're a competitive player, you're looking to birdie a hole like this because you can let it go on the tee pad. So you are going to see players, and on this hole, myself included, throwing hard off the tee pad, trying to push as far as possible to give yourself a line at the basket. Okay, that was terrible. I think I've got one more drive left in me today. All right, so you can see the basket from here, or maybe you can't see the basket because that's how bad of a drive it was. Yeah, throw a drive like this, I'm not even guaranteeing myself a par at this point. That is unacceptable. But I'm gonna play the hole out. Really just gonna throw, you can't see from here, the landing zone's pretty big. Just gonna throw a shot that I know is gonna land in the fairway, give myself about a 200-foot sidearm approach shot to get up and down. I mean, that's actually about perfect. Okay, so that's about 120 feet out. I mean, I'm not mad at all about that. Oh, about 120 feet out. After a drive like that, yeah, wouldn't mind this one bit. All right, fantastic disc golf finish hole, hole 18. It's only 695 feet. Should be an easy 3, right? So you have OB left over the ball fields. You have OB right, a road all the way, the whole dog legs to the left a little bit. You have a fairly narrow landing area. Now here's the things that everyone's going to be considering. The easiest way to get onto the landing area is to swing it over the road. However, if you swing it over the road and you don't make it back in bounds, which could be because of a bad throw, but it could be because of a fairly good throw that happens to just hit the curb at the edge of the pavement, you're lying 3 about 25 feet in front of the tee pad. That is your risk. Now, a trickier angle is to throw down the middle of the fairway. However, if you do go out of bounds on that shot, you're going out of bounds late. So, better chance of getting on the fairway over the road, better chance of not lying 3 right in front of the tee pad, going straight. It's a tricky shot. Now, one of the things that makes this one a little more complex as well is you can't just take your mid-range and chuck it up there 250 feet. You're gonna have a really tough birdie at this point because there's OB around the basket as well. So if you want to birdie this one, you have to be willing to push the drive a little bit. You cannot play this hole ultra conservative and expect a birdie. So you got to be somewhat aggressive, but not too aggressive because then your landing area is small, 450 feet away. I'll go ahead and chuck one. In fact, I'm going to try to skip it off the road. Hope I don't hit the curb. Or I'll skip it off the other side of the road on this hard-packed Texas dirt. That was probably the most forgiving bad shot I've ever thrown in my entire life. But yeah, this is a great hole. This is, by the way, my favorite hole on the course because it's a fairly one-dimensional hole. And one thing I like about this is it forces a type of shot. It's nice to have options sometimes, but it's also nice when the course designer says you need to do a certain type of throw. And this one kind of does that. You got to throw right to left. So, not a great drive, but as long as it's not too conservative, I mean, it's just a flex shot over the field or a hyzer up to the hole. Oh, I hit the pin. All right, so that's definitely the way to end the round. I'll be honest, I will be fine with 3 pars on this hole just because there's so much trouble to be had. You get off a good drive, you're certainly thinking birdie, obviously. But at the end of the tournament, when I look back, if I go 4-4-4, I'm okay with it. The reason why I threw the sidearm approach shot, the sidearm hyzer over the ball field, instead of the wider window for the hyzer, has to do with the OB that's here behind the basket. A sidearm hyzer, if it gets away from me, is going to fly. It's going to be a little bit too high. It's going to go out of bounds for my penalty stroke, but I'm going to take my meter in and have about a 15-foot or 14-foot putt. It'll be for bogey at that point. Actually, no, I'm sorry, it'll be for par at that point. The backhand hyzer if you make the identical error, which is you don't throw it great and you throw it out of bounds, may stay out of bounds and you're throwing an approach shot back up there. Now that's a bogey probably for sure. So it's really just calculating what happens if you miss. They're both pretty routine shots with a good drive. This is a good course. Before I sum everything up, if you enjoy this content or if you find the tips lower your score, please consider becoming a patron. There's a link down below. It's month to month, there's no contract. You can sign up for any dollar amount you choose, but the tiers that I've set up were $7, $14, and $21 a month. I'm doing well over a video a day. If you join the highest tier, the $21 a month, you get a copy of my book or a link to download the audiobook, and you can cancel after 1 month, which means you basically just bought a book. So if you like this content and you want to see more of it, you want to encourage more of it, become a patron, link down below. All right, so I would like to do a lot more of these. I did one in Belton, it was fun. Did one here, it was fun. This is definitely higher up on the time-consuming thing I do. So I want to do it, but only if people are really enjoying it. If it's, take it or leave it, it's probably not worth the time. But if y'all are digging it, I'll do it. Please let me know in the comments. Do you want me to do these for every DGPT event, including Silver Series, basically every event I play, or just the big ones, the 16 where there's going to be coverage every day, or take it or leave it? But let me know and I'll make my decisions based on that feedback. So this course, I know Greg Barsby contributed, the Rose City Disc Golf Club and the people of Tyler contributed. It always takes the city of Tyler, the Parks Department at Lindsay Park, to allow these things to happen. It takes a village. Y'all did a fantastic job. There is not a bad hole on this course. Like, I don't know what holes got omitted because there's 3 courses here and you picked the best holes of each course and even modified some of them. I don't know what got left out. All I know is the worst hole on this course is a good golf hole. The best hole on this course is a great golf hole. So when a course doesn't have a bad hole, I'm going to call that one a winner. So hats off to Tyler, Lindsay Park, Rose City Disc Golf, and just everyone. Like, this course is top notch and I hope y'all enjoyed it. This course is hard. That's why it's awesome. Thanks everyone.